Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this morning's Knowledge Bank. Today's session is being presented by Natalie Laybourn from Watts Group, and she is going to be speaking to you about the principal designer responsibilities under building regulations. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please submit them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we will try to get through as many as possible at the end. The webinar is also being recorded today and will be available to watch back later on for anyone who cannot join us live. That is all from me for the moment, and I am now going to hand you over to Natalie to begin the webinar.
Well, thank you.
Welcome.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining me today. My name is Natalie Laybourn, and I'm a building surveyor in our Leeds office at Watts Group Limited. Now, I joined Watts at the start of 2023, so I have been a building surveyor for around 5 years now. Prior to this, I worked in residential block management for around 10 years before moving into consultancy. Now, I work across a wide range of building surveying services that includes plan maintenance programs, schedules of condition, license to alter, reinstatement cost assessments and defect investigations. And I have also acted as contract administrator and principal designer on various projects, which gives me some practical insight into both design and management aspects of building safety and compliance. In addition to this, I sit on the Watts Building Safety at Working Group, which helps to shape our approach to compliance and best practice. Now, you might see my colleague Mark Jackson's name up there, who he unfortunately couldn't join me today as he is unwell. And so you just got me today, and I'll be guiding you through the session on the principal designer role and its relevance to block managers. So I look forward to sharing some practical insights and answering any questions that you might have at the end of the webinar. So here's our agenda for today's session. We'll start with a brief introduction to Watts Group Limited, giving some context about who we are and the services that we provide. Next, we'll focus on understanding the role of the principal designer. So we'll cover why the role exists and why it is important for block managers. We'll cover the legal framework and key duty holders and how the principal designer's duties work in practice. We'll also look at what this specifically means for block managers, including managing refurbishment and maintenance projects. From there, we'll move into compliance with building regulations and then discuss risk management and safety considerations, highlighting how to identify and mitigate design risks effectively. We'll then cover the golden thread and record keeping, emphasising the importance of accurate documentation and digital record management. And then finally, we'll wrap up with a summary and a Q&A session, so giving you the opportunity to ask questions and clarify any points, which I will do my best to answer today, but I can follow up with you following the webinar should you have any other questions. So before we dive into the session, I'd just like to introduce you to Watts Group Limited, so the consultancy behind this webinar. So Watts, we are an independent consultancy firm, and we specialise in project management, building surveying, cost management and independent monitoring services. We support clients across both the public and the private sector, delivering tailored solutions that add value throughout the project lifecycle. We have a team of around 90 professionals now, and we do operate from 7 offices across the UK, which includes London, Manchester, Bristol, Leeds, Cardiff, Glasgow and Belfast. So we do have this national presence and enable us to deliver consistent, high quality services that are tailored to the specific needs of each region. So with that context, let's explore today's topic. So I'd like to start by explaining the purpose and objectives for today. This will just give you a sense of, what we'll cover and why it's relevant to your role. Because as block managers and property professionals, you do play a central role in ensuring the buildings that you oversee remain safe, compliant and well maintained. And today's session is focused on the role of the principal designer, which is a key position defined under current legislation, including CDM Regulations and the Building Safety Act. Now, understanding this role is important because decisions made at design stage can have long-term effects on building safety, compliance and on management. And so this session will give you practical insights into the principal designer responsibilities, and how their work intersects with your ongoing management responsibilities. So by the end of this webinar, you'll be able to define the legal duties and responsibilities of the principal designer, so you know exactly what their role entails. Differentiate between the CDM Regulations and the Building Safety Act to understand the current regulatory context. Recognise how the principal designer collaborates with the wider project team and why this is important for compliance and safety. Apply strategies to manage design risks and safety considerations, which will help you support safe, compliant buildings. And also understand the importance of maintaining the golden thread and having accurate, transparent records, which underpins ongoing compliance and, again, regulatory inspections. So, understanding the role of the principal designer. So what I'd like to do before we talk about the principal designer duties, I think it's important to understand why the role exists. So the principal designer under the Building Regulations was introduced through the Building Safety Act 2022 and the Building Amendment England Regulations 2023, which amended the Building Regulations 2010. Now, these changes, they followed lessons learned from major building safety failures, most notably, as we all know, the Grenfell Tower tragedy. Now, that event exposed some serious issues, particularly around how safety risks were managed during design and construction, and where accountability and oversight were lacking. It made clear that safety must be considered and coordinated from the very start of the design process, and not treated as an afterthought once the building is complete. The introduction of the principal designer role, it aims to address these gaps. It ensures there's somebody with the competence and authority to plan, manage, and monitor the design process so that compliance and safety is built in from the start. So in practice, this means that safety is considered throughout the entire life cycle of a building, from concept and construction through to occupation and ongoing maintenance. The role, it strengthens oversight, so it ensures clearer accountability, and it helps to make sure that design decisions don't compromise long-term safety, compliance, or maintainability. Now, for block managers, this is particularly relevant because decisions made at the design stage, it can affect how buildings are managed and maintained for years to come. So things like fire safety systems, accessibility, or how easily key elements can be inspected or repaired. And understanding the purpose of the principal designer role, it helps you appreciate why early engagement and good communication with project teams is so important. It's all about making sure the right safety considerations are built in before a project even starts. So when is a principal designer under building regs required? So they must be appointed on any project involving design work that falls under the building regulations. And this includes not just new builds, but also refurbishments, extensions, or material alterations, where compliance must be demonstrated. So, for example, a material alteration, this could be installing or removing a fire door. Now, under the regulations, the client, they're legally required to appoint a principal designer before construction begins. And it is important to note if the client fails to make this appointment in writing, then they automatically assume the role of principal designer. And it means they take on all the associated legal duties and responsibilities. And this does align closely with how the principal designer appointment under the CDM regulations works as well. And again, for block managers, it is important you understand and ensure that the client understands these duties and that a PDBR has been properly appointed, as if not, the client assumes the role. And if they do so without the necessary competence, it could create significant risk to safety, regulatory compliance, and the long-term management of the building. And it can open up the client to potential enforcement action. Now, while the law requires appointment before construction starts, it is best practice to involve a designer as early as possible. And this is ideally during the design stage. And this ensures that safety, compliance, and coordination are embedded from the outset. So that would always be my advice, as early as possible. Now, for higher risk buildings, the principal designer is slightly different. They must be appointed even earlier. So before submitting the building control application to the Building Safety Regulator. And again, for block managers, whenever significant works are planned, particularly design or structural changes, it is important to check whether a principal designer under building regs is required, as again, early engagement helps prevent compliance issues and provides assurance that safety has been properly considered from the start. So we've covered why the principal designer building role exists and when it's required. And I just want to go through the duty holders under the regulations. So under the Building Safety Act 2022 and the supporting regulations, each project has defined duty holders, and these are set out in Part 2A of the Building Regulations 2010. And each duty holder does have specific legal responsibilities. So we have the client. They are a key legal duty holder, and they must appoint competent duty holders, which does include the principal designer, and they must provide the necessary resources and information to support safe and compliant building work. As we've discussed, you have the principal designer, which takes the lead during the design stage, and they coordinate all designers, they manage risks, and they ensure compliance and maintain the golden thread of information. You can also have other designers that provide the technical design work under the oversight of the principal designer. So an example might be a structural engineer who is doing the design work for the structural elements of a project. Once construction begins, the principal contractor manages and monitors the build, and while contractors carry out the work safely in line with the design. And again, I keep touching with block managers. Understanding this framework is essential, as even if you're not delivering the project, the principal designer under building regs design decisions will directly affect building safety, ongoing maintenance, and regulatory compliance. So the golden thread provides critical information to plan maintenance, schedule inspections, and manage resident safety effectively. So just in short, knowing who is responsible for what and how the principal designer under building regs interacts with the client, designers, and contractors, it allows you as block managers to engage confidently, anticipate issues, and support safe, well-managed buildings. So now that we know who the duty holders are and their responsibilities, let's take a look at what the principal designer role actually involves. So there's several core responsibilities. The principal designer, they will plan, manage, and monitor design work to make sure the building complies with all relevant building regulations. They coordinate the work of all designers, ensuring that the risks to health and safety and building performance, such as fire safety, structural integrity, accessibility, and energy performance, are identified early and effectively managed. They ensure the competence of all designers and specialists involved in the project. They are verifying they have the right skills, knowledge, experience, and behaviours to deliver safely. They maintain oversight of information as part of the golden thread, ensuring that safety critical design decisions, risk assessments, and compliance evidence are captured, coordinated, and shared so that other duty holders, clients, and regulators can trace design decisions throughout the building life cycle. They promote collaboration and accountability between the client, designer, and contractors, making sure that everyone works together to achieve a safe and compliant building. And so in practice, the principal designer is involved from the earliest stages of a project, ideally during the concept or the preliminary design phase. And it's this early engagement which allows them to influence key design decisions that affect long-term safety, compliance, and maintainability. So they also review and coordinate all design work and make sure that any changes or updates to the design do not conflict with the work of other designers or compromise safety, compliance, or building performance. And they do also hold regular meetings or workshops with the client, designers, and contractor to ensure that everyone's aligned, accountable, and aware of their design changes, just so risks are managed and decisions remain consistent across the project. So having looked at the role of the principal designer under the Building Safety Act and Building Regulations, it is important to understand how this differs from the CDM 2015 principal designer. So under CDM 2015, the principal designer focuses primarily on health and safety during the design stage. They coordinate designers to identify and manage risk before construction begins. And while their active duties mostly end at construction handover, they are responsible for preparing and maintaining the health and safety file, which contains information necessary for the safe operation, maintenance, and eventual demolition of the building. The principal designer, under the Building Safety Act and Building Regulations, they have a broader remit. So their responsibilities now cover compliance with building regulations, long-term building safety and maintainability. And this extends through the life cycle of the building, including occupation and ongoing management. And a key change introduced by the Building Safety Act is the concept of the golden thread. So maintaining accurate, accessible and up-to-date records of safety critical design information. Now, while the formal legal requirement to maintain a golden thread applies to high-risk buildings, the same principles of good information management and traceability are encouraged for all building projects. And it is also worth noting that the same individual, they can act as both the CDM principal designer and the principal designer under building regulations. And this is provided they have the necessary competence. So competence, it means having the right knowledge, skills, experience and behaviours to carry out both sets of duties effectively. So as block managers, it's important to check competence. So for example, by reviewing CVs, project experience, references or professional memberships to ensure that all duties are carried out safely and in compliance with the law. So essentially, while the CDM PD is focused on the design safety with responsibility for health and safety file, the PD has a life cycle focused legal mandated role that covers building safety, compliance, maintainability, and record keeping from design through to occupation and management. And understanding these differences helps block managers know who is accountable for what and ensures buildings remain safe, compliant, and maintainable over the long term. So moving on to compliance with building regulations and why it matters for block managers. So the Building Safety Act 2022 and the supporting regulations, they set out clear requirements for design, construction and ongoing management of buildings. And compliance is about ensuring the buildings are safe, structurally sound, accessible and sustainable. And so while you might not be directly involved in design or construction, as a block manager, you are responsible for ensuring the buildings you manage continue to meet regulatory compliance. And this includes understanding the roles of duty holders and how their design decisions affect ongoing safety and maintenance. And a key digital tool in this, which I'll talk more about later, is the golden thread. So it's a digital record of the design and safety critical decisions that are maintained by the principal designer. And by having access to and understanding this information, you can verify that compliance is being maintained and support inspections and audits if needed. So being aware of compliance requirements, it does also help, as I've mentioned before, you to plan maintenance, identify risks early, and most importantly, ensure resident safety. So it bridges the gap between design stage decisions and day-to-day management of buildings. So making your role critical in maintaining long-term safety and regulatory standards. So what I want to do here is focus on just some of the key compliance areas under building regulations that are particularly relevant to you. So I want to emphasise that this isn't an exhaustive list of every regulation. There are many, and these are the ones that you'll most likely interact with in your day-to-day management of residential buildings. So we have fire safety. So design decisions made by the principal designer, such as compartmentation, alarm systems, sprinklers and escape routes, they have a direct impact on resident safety. And as block managers, understanding these decision elements help you plan inspections, manage ongoing maintenance and ensure compliance with fire safety requirements. You have accessibility. So buildings must provide safe and convenient access for all residents, including those with mobility challenges. And again, decisions made at design stage, such as ramps, lifts, and door widths, can affect both resident experience and maintenance responsibilities. You have structural integrity, so the choices about materials, load-bearing elements, and facade systems influence long-term safety and maintenance planning. And block managers need to be aware of these considerations to monitor building performance and respond appropriately if issues arise. We have sustainability and energy efficiency, so buildings must meet environmental and energy efficient standards. And while this might not be always the first thing that's thought about, these design decisions can impact operational costs and maintenance requirements over time. And then there's also maintenance and inspection requirements. So the way a building is designed affects how easy it is to inspect and maintain critical systems, so from fire doors to lifts and drainage. And understanding the original design intent, it does allow you to plan maintenance effectively and maintain compliance throughout the building life cycle. And just remember, these are examples of key compliance areas and not a complete list of regulations. The aim here is just to give you a practical insight into what design decisions will impact your ongoing responsibilities as block managers. So I just want to touch what happens at the end of a building project in terms of compliance declarations. So under Regulation 18 of the Building Registered Building Control Approvers, Regulation 2024, so signing declaration, it's a mandatory step before a final certificate can be issued. And these declarations will confirm that the building work has been completed in compliance with all relevant building regulations. And it involves 3 key duty holders. So we've spoken about the client, and they will need to sign that to the best of their knowledge, the completed work complies with all applicable building regulations. You have the principal or the sole contractor who confirms they have fulfilled their duties under Part 2A of the Building Regulations 2010 regarding duty holders and competence. And you have the principal designer or the sole or lead designer who confirms they've fulfilled their duties as the principal designer, again under Part 2A of the Building Regulations 2010. And all these declarations are submitted using a compliance declaration notice, and the signing of these forms is required to obtain building regulation approval and the final certificate. So essentially this process ensures that all parties take formal responsibility for compliance and that the project is legally and safely complete. If applicable, where Regulation 38 is applicable, then the Building Regulations 2010 mandates that upon completion of building work, the person carrying out the work must provide comprehensive fire safety information to the responsible person, so typically the building owner, landlord or occupier. And this information is crucial for the responsible person to manage and maintain fire safety within the building effectively. Now, this information must be provided no later than the date of completion or occupation of the building, whichever is earlier. And the responsible person must then acknowledge receipt and confirm that the information is sufficient to understand, operate and maintain the building fire safety systems. So at project closure and handover, with all the declarations signed and the Regulation 38 compliance ensured, the project then enters the closure phase. So this involves handing over all the relevant documentation, including fire safety information, to the responsible person. And it is essential to ensure that all records are complete and accessible for future reference and audits. So risk management and safety considerations. So we've discussed compliance. So I just want to now turn to risk management and safety considerations. And effective risk management starts at the design stage. And as block managers, your role is in identifying and mitigating risks throughout the life cycle of the building. So understanding potential hazards such as fire, structural issues, or failing building systems, it does help you plan inspections, maintenance and refurbishment work more effectively. And collaboration is key, so working closely with duty holders, including the principal designer, designers and contractors, allows you to address safety concerns early and ensures that everyone is accountable for maintaining compliance. And health and safety isn't just a design stage concern, it must be integrated into ongoing maintenance and refurbishment planning. So for example, understanding how facade access, fire doors or sprinklers were designed helps you schedule checks and plan work without compromising resident safety. And as previously noted, the golden thread of information is a critical tool. It allows you to track design decisions, risk mitigation measures and compliance evidence over time, giving you the confidence that buildings are being managed safely and in accordance with regulations. So in short, risk management for block managers is about proactive oversight, using the information from the principal designer and other duty holders to maintain safe, compliant buildings for your residents. The golden thread and record keeping. So the golden thread is a digital record of all safety critical information about a building. It brings together details such as design decisions, risk assessments, and evidence of compliance with the Building Safety Act and regulations. It was introduced following the Hackett Review, which took place after the Grenfell Tower tragedy, and it became a legal requirement under the Building Safety Act 2022 and the supporting regulations in 2023. And the purpose of the golden thread is to ensure transparency and accountability throughout a building's life cycle. So from design and construction through to occupation and management. And for block managers, it's particularly valuable because it acts as a single source of truth. It helps you understand how design decisions impact ongoing maintenance, safety, and compliance. It also allows you to anticipate potential issues, plan maintenance more effectively, and provide evidence during audits and inspections. And in short, it connects the design and construction phase with your day-to-day management responsibilities. And the principal designer plays a key part in this. They are responsible for maintaining and updating this digital record during the design stage, ensuring decisions, risks, and compliant measures are clearly documented and passed on to those managing the building. So how is the golden thread actually managed and collated in practice? So it isn't just a single document, it's a living digital record that's continuously updated throughout a building's life cycle. And how it's maintained will depend on the project, but there are several tools and systems that can support it. So many organisations are using digital information management systems, or you may have heard them referred to as BIM platforms, so building information modelling. And this captures and coordinates data throughout design, construction, and into occupation. And that BIM can be particularly useful because it creates a shared digital model of the building, linking drawings, specifications, product data, and safety information in one place. It supports collaboration between designers, contractors, and block managers, and ensures everyone is working from consistent and accurate information. So for smaller projects, the golden thread, it might be maintained using a structured digital record, such as shared databases or asset registers or document management systems. And the important thing is, as long as the information is accessible, accurate, secure, and up to date, that is the most important thing. And ultimately, it's not about the software itself, but it's about ensuring there is a clear process for recording design decisions, compliant evidence, and safety information, and that this information is passed to the people who need it, including block managers. So just as a recap, just before we close, it's actually gone quicker than I thought it would. I just want to recap on what we have covered today. So we started with an introduction to Watts Group Limited and how we can support clients across the UK with building surveying, project management, and cost consultancy. So within our building surveying team, we do offer principal designer under building regs, and we have extensive support measures and processes in place to ensure this is managed sufficiently. We then moved on and explored the principal designer role and why it exists and what their core responsibilities are and how their work affects building safety, compliance, and long-term management. We then looked at compliance with building regulations. So we focused on key areas like fire safety, accessibility, and maintainability that block managers need to be aware of. And we also covered risk management and safety considerations, including how risks are identified, monitored, and mitigated during design and construction. And finally, we talked about the golden thread and the record keeping and why accurate, accessible, and safety critical information is essential for ongoing building maintenance and regulatory compliance. And I'm sure everybody knows, say, when they take on a new building, how difficult it can be to have this information. And so just having those, if companies can maintain these digital records and ensure all that information is updated and passed over, it just makes everybody's life obviously a lot easier along great maintenance. And so these are the main points to take away, just to help you work effectively with principal designers and managing buildings safely and confidently. And ultimately, it is all about collaboration, and the principal designer in their role has to really be driving that collaboration between the project team. But that is actually me. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Natalie. That was brilliant. We have got a few questions here, so let's just have a quick look through. Okay, so there's a question which was from earlier on in the presentation from Carolyn. She asked, who would be the PD in the case of apartment fire door replacement, as this is the leaseholder's responsibility as per the lease?
It's a good question. I think in terms of replacing the fire door, although it's the responsibility of the leaseholder, I'd expect it with the block management company who would drive and have oversight of that, because they need to ensure compliance with the building. So I think the key thing is obviously refer to the lease and how that mechanism does work in the lease. And I think, are they talking about I suppose just an isolated one door repair? Are they talking about an entire building replacement of all fire doors?
Yeah, it doesn't refer to that in the question, but
Yeah, I think it does depend on the lease. I think ultimately the block manager has a responsibility to ensure, even if the fire door does belong to the leaseholder, they have a responsibility to manage the overall safety of the building. And
yeah,
so I think the block manager should play a key role in that. And they would want to have that oversight and have that communication and correspondence with the principal designer. So whether it's a mechanism that can allow the block manager to action the work and collect the funds from the leaseholders, that would be my preferred method of moving forward on that anyway.
okay. I hope that answers your question, Carolyn. There's another question from Matthew. Is membership of a professional body such as RICS or TPI on its own enough to demonstrate competence?
So it's a difficult one. So, I mean, there are courses that can be done. So, for example, I've done the REVA course on principal designer. I think it's about showing your competence, maintaining your competence, but then also understanding where I suppose your limiting competence stops. So a principal designer aren't expected to know every single thing about everything, but they are required to have a good understanding of the building regulations and when they apply. So, I mean, how we deal with it at what? So obviously we have taken the relevant courses. So in our case, I've taken the REVA course. With continuous updating our CPD. We have CVs. We have project case studies that we can provide to clients, and we also have a process in place where we have an operational lead in the company. So although we have principal designers doing the day-to-day job, we also have an operational lead who has an oversight of everything, and they ultimately will need to sign off. And this is somebody who does have a very, very good understanding of the building regulations. So in terms of, so I've got what the question was there. Going back to questions. So yeah, so it's just so yeah, there are courses you can do, but you do need to make sure that you understand the limits of your competence, and you need to be able to refer that to other people within the company where you know you might not have as detailed understanding on a particular topic where somebody else does.
Yeah, knowing when to delegate and check with someone else, I guess.
Exactly.
Okay. Got a question from Rachel. Is Regulation 18 applicable even to projects that qualify under the transitional arrangements?
That might need to be something I come back to you on. But if you can pop that over, and I'll have a look and come back to you on that one.
Yeah, no worries. Rachel, if you want to get in touch with Natalie, or pass the question to me and I can pass it on, that would be great. Okay. They said, thank you, Natalie, for the valuable information. Can you please expand on the role of the PD in relation to fire doors alterations for HRB and below?
That's quite a broad question. I mean, in terms of the fire doors, if you are replacing a fire door, it comes under approved document B. So you need to
Mhm.
make sure that the replacement fire door is, just comply with that. Um,
I'm
I
not
suppose,
sure if it's that it might be the same person, but there's because it's they haven't left a name, but underneath it says, I'm the freeholder of a building that might be a HRB. I'm in the process of working out if it is or not.
okay.
I've just found out that the entry phone needs replacing. Is this work that needs to be approved under the BSA? Or can I go ahead and do the work?
An entry phone system.
Hmm.
I'm not too sure about that. I mean, my immediate thought is if it doesn't fall under the approved documents, then it wouldn't require that. But I'm more than happy to look at it if they want to send over exactly what works they're doing and it involves more extensive work and not just replacing the entry phone system.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I'm not sure who it is. They've not left a name, but if you want to get in touch with, you can send
Yeah,
the question over to myself or directly to Natalie, and one of us will try and get back to you.
yeah.
Okay, there's a few more here. Anna has asked, can flue repairs qualify for emergency works under the competence scheme where the repairs disturb the fire stopping? Where the repairs disturb the fire stopping.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best thing to do is if this is specific work, it needs looking at in detail. What I don't want to do is give advice on a particular set of work without seeing the
Yeah.
detail behind it, but more than happy to have a look at that.
Okay. Um, there's a few questions, but I'm not sure what they're relating to. I think they was asking questions when you were speaking because they was asking, is this for residential or commercial buildings? And I don't know what point in the
Yeah.
webinar that was. So again, if anyone wants to send those questions directly to us, then we can look at them in more detail. Let me just see if there's anything else. Again, there's another question about the golden thread. On the golden thread, how can you keep a living track record of the golden thread when working with developers? Most of the time, developers are not forthcoming with this information or enable block managers to keep track of any changes.
A really difficult situation. I see it happen a lot with block management companies when they take over another block and the information
Yeah,
just pass through. And yeah, I mean, it is a difficult one. I mean, you have a right to this information. You need this information to manage the building. The developer should be passing on this information. Block managers should be passing it between each other. But in practice, I do appreciate it's a very, very difficult situation to manage. So yeah, I think any advice, I think this is a block management company. If any advice anyone can give anyone, I always say collaboration is key. So
yeah,
as block managers, please do share how you are tackling that. And I do appreciate it's very difficult.
yeah, definitely. Okay. I think that's it. Yeah, I think Caroline was just following up saying it was an isolated one door repair on the previous question.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, other than that, I think that's pretty much it. So thank
But
you
very
very
quick,
much,
sorry to last
Natalie.
longer.
Ooh, we finished up early. That's no worries at all. Thank you very much for presenting today. That was brilliant. And thank you to
Yeah.
everyone that has joined us. If you want to join any more of our webinars, then please take a look on the News on the Block website to see what else is coming up. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much, and I will see you on the next one.
Well, thank you. Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you, Natalie. Bye.